please welcome Global Managing Director, Microsoft Research Outreach, Sandy Blyth.
Hello, hello, good morning. Good morning. Coffee is served in the back there. Let's go grab some of that. Good morning. It's really a pleasure for me and a privilege to welcome you and to be your host for this North American Faculty Summit. It was great to see so many of you at the reception last night. I hope you enjoyed that. I saw a lot of old friends and a lot of new faces, so we're really excited to be hosting you this week at Faculty Summit. It's a really busy time of the year for you. I know that. There's a crazy number of things you could be doing at this point in the academic year, plus some personal commitments and opportunities. So the fact that you chose to spend a couple of days with us here in Redmond is a real privilege, and we do thank you for being here. Faculty Summit for us is literally a year in the making each year, and so it's something that we circle on the calendar. It's a real highlight for the folks at MSR. We're really dedicated to making this worth your while. I hope it is. This is, while it's the North America version of our Faculty Summit, we do Faculty Summits all around the world. This is our 19th here in Redmond, and I hope that this is one of the best of them. In addition to about 200 academic researchers and faculty, we'll have a number of Microsoft professionals. We're also streaming the plenary sessions live over the web. We had several hundred registrations for the plenaries. And we'll be recording the breakout sessions for replay and access to you later on. So if there's something that you really wanted to see and just couldn't get to it while you were here, it'll be available to you later on. This year's Faculty Summit, also we have a very high percentage of our most senior technical leadership, our technical fellows, distinguished scientists and engineers. So we're really looking forward to what we hope will be a rich, engaging dialogue with you. While this year our summit topic is systems, and there's truly never been a better time to be in systems research. There's so much going on that systems research is going to be powering. With all of the developments in the cloud, the proliferation of different devices and experiences out on the edge, all that's going on in new hardware and software, architectures have to be rethought, fundamentally new ways of developing applications, the end of Moore's Law. There's so much going on here. We really are excited about the topics that we'll be able to show with you today. We got to the systems focus not only because of the focus and importance of systems research today, but the feedback from you and your prior attendance at Faculty Summit said we wanted to kind of keep the topics narrow. So we've gone narrow and deep with this topic as we did last year with artificial intelligence. We think that that leads to richer, more engaged conversation. So each of you is closely related to the research interests of your colleagues. We've also limited the attendance, so there's only about 200 folks here today. And again, we're very privileged that you would be willing to join us. We'll find throughout the agenda that we're trying to build in not only time for deep and engaging conversations, but also some time to network. That also was feedback that we've received from you in the past. I hope that you find Faculty Summit to be one of those really rare fora that you can come to that balances an intimacy with a scholarly approach that is rewarding and interesting, and that you get to network and meet new colleagues as well as renew friendships with some old colleagues. Here's just a brief view of the agenda. You've got this in the handouts that we've got. It's also available to you on the web. And hopefully you will see here the kind of balance that we're trying to achieve between deep and broad. In addition, some new things that we have based on feedback from prior faculty summits, we're having our technical fellows and distinguished scientists and engineers host something that we call One Table, One Topic. So it's kind of a birds of a feather session that we'll offer over the lunch if there's a particular topic or somebody at MSR that you're particularly keen to spend a little bit of extra time with and maybe talk about some areas of interest or common research. Look for those tables. We'll also do this tomorrow. If you want to sign up and host a bit of a birds of a feather over the lunchtime, please do. We also are trying to help kind of folks get to know each other because there are a lot of new faces, both at MSR and in the academic community that are attending today. So we have these researcher spotlights that help you get familiar with some of the research areas of your colleagues, as well as get to know them a little bit. So I, for example, learned that Laura Waller has over 100 cousins. I thought my family reunions were a food fight, but thank you, Laura, for sharing that part of it. It's super interesting to know that about you. Faculty Summit around the world tends to be kind of a once-a-year event, but we are looking for opportunities to try and maintain a dialogue and collaboration and engagement across the communities. And so here's a few ways that we hope that you can keep in touch with Microsoft Research and communicate with the researchers in MSR. And we're quite keen to have you to engage with us this way. As I say, it was great to see so many of you at the reception last night. I hope you enjoyed it. We're at the Hyatt Regency down in Lake Washington. I had 2 jobs for Faculty Summit, one of which was to arrange for good weather. I'm thinking so far we're doing okay because that was a spectacular venue last night. We'll be back there for dinner tonight. I'm excited to be able to host you at the dinner there this evening, and I really do hope you enjoyed it. It's a bit of a reveal. As you come in, when you come driving in, it looks like it is a construction zone. It's a brand new hotel. It's beautiful. I hope you enjoy it. Let us know through your feedback, though, if that's a great venue for you and if you enjoyed the time there. The summit is all about fostering collaboration, though. It's about scholarly dialogue and exchange, but we want to make it a special time as well. And so we'll be announcing some things here for the first time. We'll also be providing some exclusives to you to say thank you for joining us today. And I actually have the opportunity to do one of those reveals here this morning. So I'd like to talk to you about some of the fellowship and grant programs very briefly that we have at MSR. Hopefully most of you are familiar with our North America PhD Fellowship. This is very similar to fellowship programs that we have in other geographies around the world. It's intended for PhD students in their 3rd and 4th year to full tuition plus an annual stipend. We also have what we refer to as our dissertation grant program in North America, which is aimed really at 4th-year students trying to get, especially a diverse and underrepresented populations, over the hump to finally get their thesis and their degree granted. To that, though, we've added 2 new fellowships that we're announcing today, and details are available out in the lobby at the booth and will be released on the web this morning. One of which we are calling the Ada Lovelace Fellowship. This is a North American fellowship, again aimed at diverse and underrepresented populations in computer science. They have some particular structural challenges that historically have touched that group. And so what we're trying to do is get a little bit earlier in their career. This is intended for diverse and underrepresented groups in their 2nd year of their PhD program. And the scholarship runs a full 3 years. As well, we're actually bringing back an old friend. It's the Faculty Fellows program. So this is intended for faculty, young and career faculty, so those who are within the first 5 years of entering the professoriate, to try and, again, provide some additional funding to get you through those first few years as you're building up your research base. We're really excited about these, especially in an environment where the funding can be difficult, to bring both our existing and some new student and faculty programs to you. We're also bringing some experiences. So this year we'll be having our first PhD forum, which will include PhD students from the fellowship, the dissertation grant, and I think Valerie Taylor may be here. She has an NSF-funded organization called the Future Leadership in the Professoriate, intended again to take underrepresented groups and provide them with experiences that allow them to compete more effectively for tenured positions in academia. We'll be including the Flip. Hello, Valerie. Thank you. Good. I'm glad you're here. We'll be including them as well in collaboration with the University of Washington, which was one of the Flip Alliance schools, in our first PhD summit later on this fall. So let's get started. I do want to take a moment to introduce my boss and the head of MSR Labs and MSR AI, Eric Horvitz, to say a few words. So welcome, Eric. Good to see you.
Thanks very much. Thank you. So I wanted to just add a personal welcome. Thanks for joining us. It's so great to see so many familiar faces, as well as so many new faces I'd love to meet over the next couple of days. I'm so impressed by the new approach to our faculty summits being focused thematically. We used to have a much larger event that was kind of representative of the wonders of Microsoft Research, which span all of computer science across our labs. And but I think the focused events thematically are much more productive for folks, and a little bit more community-centric. And the AI event last year was just fabulous, and I'm expecting the same from the systems event this year. Leadership and innovation in systems and networking is just a critical area for Microsoft research across our labs. Of course, it's a critical area for Microsoft Corporation. And so it's great to see so many of you here today. I see so many folks from our divisions, as well as Microsoft Research, as well as people who traveled out here. So I'm looking forward to that exchange. I'll actually be around during the event. I'll be coming to dinner tonight, and I have one of these rare moments this afternoon to present a technical talk of some work we're doing with my smaller research team on AI for AI systems. So thanks, everybody, and thanks for all your work, Sandy, as well.
Good, very good. Thanks very much. All right, so let's get started. And with that, I want to introduce, along with Dan Fay, the program chair for this year's Faculty Summit, Donald Kosman. Donald has joined us actually years ago from ETH Zurich, where he was on faculty for 13 years, has an extensive and rich academic career, which he tells me is more impressive than it even reads on paper. So I'm not going to take you through that. I am curious, though, about that fun fact. I wonder if there's a cause and effect relationship there. He did 4 startups because he had 4 kids, or he had 4 kids because he had 4 startups. But that's very fair of you, Donald, to have done that. So welcome to the stage, please, our program chair, Donald Kosman.
Okay, thank you very much. So just to start, I'm done both with children and with startups. And I think my wife is very happy about that, probably more happy about being done with startups than with children. But anyway, so I want to just pile on what Sandy and Eric said. Thank you so much for being here. We know that you have busy schedules, and my children are actually, I think this very moment, they're swimming in Lake Washington, so there are other things to do. So thank you very much for coming. So why are we here? And I think that's how I want to start. We are here, in some sense, all our dreams have come true. And I've heard this for the last 20 years. Yeah, and everybody, and every year we keep on saying it's more true. Computing, the age of computing is here. And but I'm going to share a small anecdote. When I got my PhD in the 90s, in the mid 90s, I graduated in Germany, and I did something that is called pointer swizzling, and I got a 10 to 15% advantage out of my technique, and I was very, very proud. And then I went to the US, and the people said 10 to 15%, that doesn't matter, right? It's if it's not an order of magnitude or at least a factor of 3, it doesn't matter. So now, 20 years later, I can tell you that 1% actually matters. 1% at the scale that we operate is huge benefits in any regard. Yeah, so 1% now matters, and of course now thinking back about my PhD times, well, 10, 15%, yeah, right? If I would do that today, this is great. So just how good the times are for us, for people who optimize, and I'm an optimizer person, these things matter now, and everything that we are going to do is going to matter much more, and this is great. Now, of course, this comes with expectations. Now, when I do an optimization, then it needs to have huge, huge impact. And that's really why we are here. Because we still kind of have opportunities for orders of magnitude, but if they're not relevant, if they're not at the point where it really matters, then it is irrelevant. 1% at the right place matters a lot, whereas an order of magnitude somewhere at an irrelevant place doesn't matter. And one of the things that we are trying to achieve here together is kind of finding the places where we can really push forward and make a huge difference. So Microsoft understands that. And one of the things that I want to kind of say at the beginning, I want to kind of clear up with some of the myths that maybe are in the community about Microsoft research. And Microsoft really understands this importance of finding the right spot and how difficult it is. So I know that many of you care a lot about the Silicon Valley lab and what happens, in particular in systems. And I'm just going to share my personal thing, and I think it was a mistake. And I think that Microsoft knows that it was a mistake, and I think Microsoft, with this commitment that it is making to Microsoft Research and to the scientific community, is really showing that it is trying to correct this mistake. So this is what Microsoft Research is, and I've highlighted some of the important things, and that's where the myths I want to clarify is we are growing. And this is, we are growing. We are hiring in all areas of core computer science, and we're growing not only in in the people, in research, and in our exposure and our engagement. So with what Sandy was mentioning, how we engage with you, we are growing, but we are also growing in our spread. So our recent member of the family is the Montreal lab. So we are also opening new labs. And I think this is important, and I would love you to kind of share this and kind of internalize this and share this in your communities and with your students. Of course, we are very interested in your students as part of this growth. This is a slide that I've shared from Eric. It's at the top is the Microsoft Research Mission. The advancing the state of the art and which is what we do with you, where we engage with you in the scientific communities, rapidly transfer this innovation into impact, and just increasing the vibrancy of the company. And this mission has been unchanged since 1991. The bottom layer is something that Eric actually cares a lot about and keeps on saying. And this is our fabric, our culture, our value system. And this is creativity, just having ideas, and we enjoy the ideas, collaboration, working with you, working together within Microsoft Research, within Microsoft Product Groups, but also with you. Diversity and joy, having fun, right? And the important thing also is, of course, also our competitors, they've understood that they need to do research and create research labs. But this fabric is not something that you build in 5 years. This takes a long, long time, and I think this is what makes Microsoft Research so unique. This is clearly, I get asked a lot, why did you go to Microsoft Research from ETH, which I still believe is the most wonderful place on the planet, being a professor at ETH. But it's really this kind of special culture and value system that makes the difference. So, of course, Microsoft also expects us to generate value. And there's a lot of value kind of in working with the business group, helping the business, creating new business. One of the things I've highlighted here is what we're doing exactly here. We are kind of the ears and the eyes of the company, and we can engage with you in a way that product groups cannot do. And this is a very important part of Microsoft Research, and Sandy's organization helps everybody, me as a researcher and or my team as research team, to do exactly that. But the real kind of expectation of the company is that we create surprises. That's really what Microsoft Research is about, and we have all these dialogues, and what kind of gives us the most pleasure is if we give these talks to our executives and we see the glowing eyes where they say, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. And of course, this is, again, we can only create surprises together with you, because this is creating some of these surprises are putting many pieces of the puzzle together, and you are the people who create many of these pieces. And I'm just going to give tomorrow I'm going to give some examples of our kind of today's surprises, but I'll give today, just for the introduction, I'll give some examples of historic surprises. So one surprise is the Kinect, which hopefully all of you have heard about, which kind of got its origin from Microsoft Research. And it's a wonderful piece of technology, and I think it has made many people, many children, definitely my children. Among the 4 children, I have 3 daughters, and they love the dancing games that only works with Kinect. Oops. Oh, can we go back, please? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, because I have this red button, which I don't have to, I'm not allowed to press. It's always dangerous to get something with a red button in your hand. But anyway, but now I'm not pressing it. Okay, anyway. So that's the Kinect. That's one of the surprises. Another one is actually one where Eric was involved in, is kind of from 1998, which we would call the first smartphone. And this is another surprise, and and of course we are very proud of being the source of that, and it took 10 years plus to make it really work. And so this is where I want to get at. So all our dreams have come true. That is correct, but that doesn't mean that we don't have to work anymore. And this is kind of a chart. We often think about, well, we want to change the world and we want to innovate. And we often hear this formula that innovation is invention times impact. And there is a big mountain of innovation is what we as researchers do all the time. We do the science and we create new ideas and we invent. And then there's another mountain which is creating impact out of these ideas, creating products and so on. And these mountains, if you look at it at a time scale, somehow you have to have an idea before you kind of at some point get to the product, but there's a big, deep valley between that. And in the case of the smartphone, this valley was 10 years. Right? It took 10 years before, from the first prototype of a smartphone out of the lab of Microsoft Research until 9 years until Apple kind of really got smartphones out. And part of what we do at Microsoft Research is to create this stretch, because we've realized that we can no longer just kind of hope that somehow our ideas will be picked up. And so that is why we work very closely with the product groups, and I'm going to talk about that. And in some sense, for you, this is a great opportunity. Because you're on the invention side, and you also many of you have startups and want to do that, but some of you maybe just want to be on the invention side, and you have, through us, you have a vehicle to get your inventions to impact. And this is kind of an opportunity that we would love you to use. Of course, also in our own interest, but also in your interest and in the interest of making the world a better place. And for us, of course, it is a big challenge, because we love the science part, but we also love the kind of building stuff and bringing it out part. And doing this stretch is kind of often, it's kind of in my everyday work. For people who are kind of too much in love with the science, pushing them to go to the impact is one thing that I have to do, but also for some people who are just about impact, pushing them back into the science is also one thing that I do. So here's just a little bit how we work with product groups, because we work very closely with the product groups. But we play a special role, and this is what I was trying to visualize with this stretch. We do a lot of things that the product groups cannot do. Right? We have a long-term perspective. We sometimes have a disruptive idea perspective. Our funding is completely independent of product groups. Yeah? So this hasn't changed, and this is we have our funding, and we are not obliged to work with product groups. Nobody is, and there are more product groups that we can even serve, and we choose what we do. But when we do choose to work with product groups, we take different perspectives, we take risks, we are more agile, and we are about taking risks. And of course, we collaborate with you, and we collaborate with our competitors. We have very open discussions, and and work with Google and Facebook and all of these researchers and engineers in those organizations. I also want to comment a little bit on our relationship with you. There are two forms where we interact. One is in the scientific communities, and I think we are partners, equal right partners. We write papers together, and I hope we will continue to do that. We serve on program committees together. We do all the service work together, and I think academics and Microsoft researchers are interchangeable in the scientific communities. I think most of you don't even care in the scientific community whether you are now talking to a Microsoft research person. The other more interesting relationship is the talent side. Of course, we heavily depend on you because you are kind of the source of ultimately of all talent. But we also help you with our internship program, and we want to really intensify that, and this is a huge part of what we do. And now it's summer, and your interns are in Building 99 here, and we're having a great time. But I think we're also helping you with this program. And the little bit more subtle thing is we also compete with you. You are looking for recruiting new junior faculty. We are looking for recruiting. So that's a little bit of a healthy, I think, aspect of our relationship. But what you shouldn't forget is that we also create and grow talent that you will hire later. So there are many career trajectories where students go to Microsoft Research and get this final boost to then go back to academia and do really outstanding research in academia. So with that, I want to kind of come to the systems part and also introduce our first keynote speaker. So kind of you've all seen some of pictures like that, where there's, today there's computing everywhere. We have this public cloud, we have private clouds, and we have all of these devices. And our CEO, Satya Nadella, he often talks about the intelligent edge and the intelligent cloud. And so the intelligent cloud is, of course, the public cloud and maybe some parts of the private cloud. And the edge are all of these gazillions of devices that go around and form one big system. And as we are a company also, now I want to introduce our first keynote speaker, who essentially is the mastermind of Azure. And Azure is kind of the way we kind of draw boxes around of these things. So Azure is, of course, our public cloud, but Azure or Azure Stack is also our private cloud, and the two together form the hybrid cloud. And Azure is also our IoT or edge story with the smaller devices. And so the mastermind behind that is Mark Russinovich, who is the CTO of Azure. He got his PhD from Carnegie Mellon University, and since then has had a very fruitful career with many activities. So he's really passionate about distributed systems, about security, about operating systems. He's been working on Windows and Azure, obviously, for a long time, and he has created many tools. So he's the author of the Sysintegration Administration tools for Windows. He had several stints, among others at IBM. But in 1996, he started a company called Winternals, which was eventually acquired by Microsoft in 2006. And since 2006, he has been with Microsoft and has created, essentially helped create Azure and holding Azure together. One of the very interesting facts about Mark is that he's a very passionate speaker, but also a very passionate author. And he wrote books, not only technical books, but also fictional books, and fictional kind of technical fictional books. And I haven't read them, but I've now I have 3 books, but I've actually looked, and it's and I'm going to read one of them, and you can look them up. So with that, please welcome Mark Rosinovich. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Anna.